Hey teachers, good afternoon. I hope everybody is doing well. Hope you had a great 4th of July weekend. As is always the case, going to take a couple of minutes to go over our agenda for this week. And this is for weeks 6 and 7, July 7th through the 14th, with all assignments being due the 21st, which will take us into our last week of the semester and working on a project around apps that can be used for literacy instruction. But this week, we're going to talk about digital storytelling and podcasting, really two sides of the same coin. One, just utilizing a little bit more media. We can talk about podcast or a podcast, which brings into video. But we're going to talk about kind of a specific type of podcast, which is a digital story. Okay, and so got our learning targets here, which, focus on just sort of the nuts and bolts characteristics of digital storytelling and podcasting, making sure that we understand those, as well as the instructional benefits and barriers associated with these technologies. And then moving into more specific readings about how does this connect to new 21st century literacies, multimodal forms of literacy and instruction, and then taking that into the development of the final learning targets having to do with the development of a lesson around the use of these two tools. So with that said, let's look at our overview, rather a lengthy overview this week, primarily because these are two technologies, unlike apps per se. These are two technologies that have really been around since the mid 2000s. But just because they are old timers of instructional technology doesn't mean that they're any less relevant than they were when they first came out. And as I say in this overview, these are technologies, when I go to conferences, in specific the ISTE conferences I mentioned in this overview, I didn't go this year, I went last year. This is the largest conference in my content area, which is instructional technology. About 24,000 educators, K-20 educators, attend this conference each year. And every year there are presentations by classroom teachers about using digital stories and podcasts in their classrooms. So this is an overview, just like previous overviews. It's really just sort of a big, there's some of my perceptions and observations in this overview, but a lot of it is just sort of a summary of research on these two topics, or these two technologies. So if we scroll down, we go to readings. A lengthy list of readings this week. A lengthy list of readings. So I've got 3 readings that I want you to read, everyone to read, about digital stories. Okay, there's not like, an article just about podcasting and education, K-12. The articles that at least I've been able to identify about podcasting in the classroom are very specific to a grade level, a content a content area, and some specific use as far as reader's theater or the development of vocabulary. Not just, I really haven't been able to find like a review of literature on podcasting and education, at least not one that's suitable for this course, with a focus primarily being on literacy, new literacies. So because of that, I have a list of articles on podcasts ranging from 2009 to 2020 and ranging from the primary grades up to high school. And so what I want you to do is to pick 2 of these articles to read to inform your understanding and the use of these tools in the classroom to support literacy. As I say in this narrative, if you'd rather look and find an article on your own, you can do that, or articles on your own, you can do that as well. Now, below this, I have some additional articles. These are not required readings, but these, again, sort of like with podcasting, these are very specific articles on digital storytelling around teaching very specific content, as well as to very specific population of students, whether that's ELs or fourth graders or struggling writers. So, that's why we have this breadth of time, these 2 weeks, to really roll our sleeves up and dive into this content, which again, as I mentioned earlier, is so relevant to teaching our students reading and writing skills. And then at the bottom here, I have a list of websites related to both podcasting and to digital storytelling, and I would like for you to look at a minimum of 3 of these. So if you're talking about digital story, if you're going to focus on digital storytelling in your lesson, then you might want to pick 3, or you can pick 2 from one and 1 from the other. But I would like for you to explore some of these wonderful resources that are available to us about how we can use these technologies in our classrooms to really engage and motivate students, especially struggling students or ELs, to develop skills in the area of reading and writing. And next, and so those readings are going to inform your group work, right? And what I'd like for you to do is meet with your group some point over the next 2 weeks, talk about your readings. What questions did you have? What did you find useful? What did you disagree with? What are you currently doing in your classroom using digital stories or podcasts? Because podcasts, as I say in the overview, this is a technology that I quit teaching, 7, 8 years ago, because students were telling me, "Oh, podcasts, they're old hat," and then, I like to, as I said in my introductory video, I'm a runner, and so I like to listen to. In the past, I've always kind of listened to news stories, NPR, Fresh Air News, things like that. But then, over the last couple of years, all these great podcasts like Serial or S-Town or The Daily have started popping up, and there's this resurgence in podcasting. It seems like every celebrity now has a podcast, so I've reintroduced these. And so maybe you're using podcasts in your classroom. Talk about that with your groups. And then what I would like for you to do is to create 2 infographics. One infographic about digital storytelling and what you took away from your reading on those, and then one infographic about podcasts and what you learn about that from your readings. And this is another infographics, and I know some of you have mentioned that you use these already in your classroom. These are great tools for teaching literacy in your classroom also. And so I've included a couple of resources or technologies that you could use, like PictoChart or Canva. Got some more lists here, but then also got a couple of articles about that if you want to take a little deeper dive into infographics. The last item before the summary is our next project, which is the digital storytelling or podcasting assignment. And this looks just like the previous ones, where you are going to, and if you click right here, it'll take you to that assignment. Also, this is at the top of the page. I don't want to read all of that because you could do that on your own time. This is the same as the previous ones. You're going to create a lesson. You're going to create a model digital story or podcast, and then you're going to have a written component. And I have a rubric for that, just as I always have, about how this ties to the standards, whether they're the literacy standards or the ISTE standards or the Common Core standards, but also you're going to connect it to at least one article that you've read with a specific citation to that article. Now, you don't have to use PhotoStory 3 or Audacity. These are just 2 great tools that have been around for a long time, that are free, that are very intuitive and easy to use. And I provide links to those as well as videos of how to use them. If you're making a digital story, you could use PowerPoint. A lot of different resources out there, and I have a list of those here, right? Then we just have our summary, and as I said before, all of these are due the 21st. I highlighted the wrong item. Just wanted to point your attention to one last thing. As has been the case for each of these assignments, I do provide examples up here, so digital story examples. I don't have any podcast examples. Last year was the first year that I had reintroduced it, and there weren't any strong ones. Most students did digital stories just because they're so much more engaging. They really connect much more to kind of this primary idea of multimodal literacy skills that we've been talking about. So I don't have any examples of the podcast, but there are digital story examples. And so at 10 minutes, I'm going to stop talking. And again, just say, I hope everyone's doing well. You know how to reach me. If you have any questions, if you'd like to meet on Teams, don't hesitate to email me, text me, call me. Take care. I'll talk to you soon, and I'll be grading your other assignments. I'll have those to you by the middle of next week at the latest. So again, take care. Talk to you soon.